Game week 36 is fast approaching us, and that big dilemma is, do we go with Arsenal players or do we go with Crystal Palace players? Let's discuss. But before we get started, you guys should know the drill by now. Make sure you guys leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Because first of all, let's just start off by saying what a game of football we just watched between Manchester City and Everton. Listen, if you're an Arsenal fan, you're obviously going to be buzzing with the result. Just from a neutral point of view, from a pure entertainment point of view, what a game. The ending to the game, Donnarumma going up for the corners, Doku's goal, Everton having their chances, incredible. But what does that mean for FPL? Because a lot of us own Semenyo and a lot of us are frustrated with Semenyo, and we will discuss it. But anyway, let's start by talking about game week 35. A green arrow of about 1,000 places. That's all it is right now. It's 126k before, 125k-ish right now. I feel like a lot went right, a lot went wrong. Starting off with the defense. I got Darlow in goal, 2-pointer. Listen, that goal probably benefited me just because of the amount of people that owned, let's say, double Lee's defense. 2-pointer, it is what it is. Verbruggen got 2 points on the bench. What I'm slightly frustrated with is I started Hill over Senesi. Now, I was always going to start at least one Bournemouth defender, and between Hill and Senesi is always a toss-up. I went no Hill because obviously, in my personal opinion, since Hill and Hill's been in the side, he's been averaging more DEFCON per 90 than obviously Senesi. So I thought, even though Senesi might have, let's say, a higher open play for it in terms of getting himself onto like set pieces, for example, those like line breaking passes that we know Senesi's so good at, I thought, let me just play with the safety net, let's say, with James Hill. He got DEFCON, he got 10 points, but Senesi obviously won that penalty. He also hit DEFCON. I think he got 3 bonuses and ended up getting a 14-pointer on the bench. Very frustrating. Let me not lie. The bench scores were quite big this week as well, with Hinchwood a 7-pointer. It's very, very frustrating. Gabriel, clean sheet. Very, very happy with that. And then Nico O'Reilly, 2-pointer. He had, let's say, a couple half chances in the first half where obviously Doku played him in. In the second half, obviously, Manchester City just weren't good enough for their higher standards, let's say. It is what it is, isn't it? Like, we were always going to start Nico O'Reilly, and we're always going to keep Nico O'Reilly for, obviously, game week 36 and double. But that's how the defense done. Let's have a look at the midfield. And now let's discuss the midfield. And when we're saying discuss the midfield, let's discuss one of the most disappointing players in FPL, Cole Palmer. Obviously, a lot of us brought him in game week 32 on our wild card. It has gone so bad. Now, Chelsea today, again, appalling performance. But from an FPL point of view, let's say, Palmer had the chance to obviously get us FPL points with that penalty. Long wait to take the penalty, which obviously doesn't help. It never helps the penalty taker, but you obviously missed it, which is not, let's say, something that you normally associate with Cole Palmer stepping up for penalties. But even besides that, his overall performance, I just think, was nowhere near good enough. Obviously, the main talking point going into game week 36 will be a lot of people obviously eyeing up Bukayo Saka. Are we going to sell Cole Palmer for him? I'm going to discuss it in the next transfer plan section, but that is probably something that I'm very, very tempted to do. And I don't blame people. Cole Palmer, Chelsea just looks so poor right now. Bruno Fernandes obviously got an assist, an FPL assist, not an actual assist, because obviously he's trying to break the record. Let's be honest. I think there was obviously more opportunity for Bruno Fernandes to get points. But at the end of the day, I feel like an assist or let's say a 5-point is probably a fair result. I don't think there was, let's say, enough, let's say, goal-scoring opportunities for Bruno Fernandes. The game at times was quite open. Some of the passes, let's say, in terms of on the eye that Bruno played was obviously sensational. You're looking at the one that he took down, then went a little flick around the corner which hit the post. I think a 5-point is probably fair, let's say, especially considering the assist that he got when an actual assist. But 5-pointer for Bruno, we're going to take it. I think his ownership was around 109% in around my rank, I think it was. So any point Bruno did obviously gain was going to hurt my rank, but it weren't the end of the world. Semenyo, 2-pointer, very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. And I know, listen, we are all big Semenyo fans, let's say, a lot of us are. But his move to Man City and his performances just haven't, let's say, matched in terms of his FPL productivity, let's say, in terms of, I keep saying this. Semenyo's performances for Manchester City have been very, very poor. Obviously, he was on the right-hand side today. I just don't think he got the better of his fullback enough. I think Everton dealt with him quite well. And just overall, I feel like I say that every single time Semenyo's played for Manchester City, where I just haven't been impressed with his performances. Now, the big talking point for a lot of people is going to be Semenyo got another early sub today. When City were chasing the game, trying to get goal, he came off. I still think he starts both games in the double in 36. If people want to move Semenyo to Turkey, which I think will be a big talking point right now within the FPL community, I hear it. I feel like Turkeys are more essential to that Manchester City side in terms of the way they play. Everything seems to go through Turkey a lot more than it does to Semenyo. Now, the reason I say this, remember guys, the role that Semenyo started off having at City to the role that he has now is completely different. The start of his, let's say, City career was pretty much playing second striker alongside Erling Haaland. A lot more narrow. This night, or nowadays, since, let's say, what was it, the Liverpool game in the FA Cup, I believe it was, Semenyo a lot more wider, which obviously hurts him as an FPL asset. So he's someone that is potentially on the chopping board for me, because I do have free transfers. And then Tavernier does what Tavernier does, which is absolutely nothing. Another opportunity where we thought, okay, Bournemouth have a penalty. Is Tavernier going to take it? Of course he's not. Of course Krupi's going to take it. Frustrating. Very frustrating. One of the worst players I've bought in FPL since, what, Gameweek 29, I think I had him. All the underlying numbers in the world, no returns. Let's just have a look at the attack, because I don't want to talk about Tavernier. And then the attack, we actually got 3 returns from the attackers, which seems very nice. Erling Haaland obviously got himself that goal against Everton. First of all, what a weird goal that was in terms of straight from kickoff. Was it Kovacic, I think, with a pass through? Breaks Everton's, like, let's say, line. How Haaland finds himself in that much space, I don't know, innit? I'm going to have to see that goal back again. But he obviously scored. From an FPL point of view, it was obviously decent, because obviously their big dilemma was Haaland or Bruno Fernandes for captaincy. I'm surprised how big of a talking point that was going into this week, because I was pretty certain that I was going to captain Erling Haaland, which is exactly what I done. Calvert-Lewin, 6-pointer, got himself a goal. I'm going to take it. The funny thing is, and I say this every single time with Calvert-Lewin, whenever, let's say, I'm watching Leeds or a Leeds notification comes up, I'm not, and obviously it's a goal, I'm not expecting it to be Dominic Calvert-Lewin, even though I own him. He's such a weird player, such a frustrating player sometimes. João Pedro. I know a lot of people are thinking about selling him, and I don't blame you guys, because like I said before, Chelsea are not looking good, but João Pedro is. Like, I still think João Pedro is looking at one of Chelsea's best players. Probably, in my eyes, Chelsea's player of the year this year, or player of the season. He got himself that goal. What a goal. One of the goals of the season he scored with that overhead kick. But it was also very unfortunate. There was another one where I think Cucurella, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, played him across. João Pedro slightly, literally millimeters probably offside. On another day, João Pedro gets 2 goals. He's on, let's say, a 15-pointer with obviously bonus. And all of a sudden, the conversation around João Pedro is completely different. Now, he still scored, but a lot of people are going to be tempted by Gyökeres, which is what I thought until the Manchester City game. Let's discuss our potential transfers now. But before we have a look at our potential transfers for Game Week 36, guys, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. But like I said, football's a funny old game, because all this week after Arsenal won their game and before the Manchester City game started, I thought, you know what, City are probably going to beat Everton, and let's say the race for the title might be decided on goal difference between Arsenal and Manchester City. That obviously still potentially could happen, but this is now in Arsenal's favour. And I'm not too sure now if I want to go with Gyökeres, guys. A lot of, let's say, the community have been talking about Cole Palmer and João Pedro out for Bukayo Saka and Gyökeres, which was something that I was pretty certain before the obviously Manchester City game I'm going to do. But now that City have dropped points, I almost think, are we going to see, let's say, a more pragmatic Arsenal? Because Arsenal against Fulham this week, I thought that's one of the best performances I've seen from Arsenal this season. I thought they looked sensational, especially that first half there. I know Arsenal get a lot of criticism for their attacking play, but they looked unstoppable at times. And Bukayo Saka obviously looked very good. But now, like I said, after that City game, I personally think Arsenal might be slightly more pragmatic heading into the last couple of games of the season now, where it's in their hands. They win the last 3 games 1-0, they've won the title. That might have not been the, let's say, case before if obviously City had won regarding goal difference. I'm now tempted Instead of obviously going down the Cole Palmer job Pedro move to bringing in someone like a Saliba or I want to say a David Raya, but Verbruggen obviously has a good fixture this week against Wolves at home. I still might bring in Bukayo Saka, to be honest, for Cole Palmer, because I just thought Saka looked incredible. And listen, Arsenal still have, let's say, one cash-in game, let's say, the one banker, which is Burnley at home in 37. The next question becomes Manchester City as well, before we obviously discuss Crystal Palace plays, where, like I said, Semenyo is clearly getting early subs. Semenyo is clearly the least favoured City attacker out the front throughout Cherki, Semenyo, Doku, and Haaland. Semenyo to Cherki is obviously going to be very, very popular again after that early sub. But I'm very, very tempted by Doku, guys. I'm very, very tempted. And I know this might be, let's say, clouded by him obviously scoring 2 goals today. I know there's a lot of criticism regarding Doku in the final third, for example. But Doku's looking brilliant. I've said it throughout this season. Doku, like, he's just one of the best wingers in the world. He's one of the best left wingers in the world. I think if you put a top 5 left winger debate in the world right now in football, Doku's in that debate, because every single time Doku gets the ball, he's threatening. Every single time that Doku's cutting in today, it just looked like something was going to happen. And I know he's going to be the least owned out of Semenyo, Cherki, and himself, which is why it's very, very tempting for me just to go Semenyo to Doku. I expect Doku to play both games in the double. Am I certain Semenyo plays both games in the double? Probably, to be honest. But who do I expect to get better minutes, Doku or Semenyo? I think Doku. Who do I expect to get better minutes between Doku and Cherki? I think that's a conversation. I'm probably going to slightly lean towards Doku because we have seen some early subs for Cherki. But even then, you can probably argue you trust Cherki in terms of getting attacking returns more. But like I said, there's 3 game weeks left of the season. I'm in a position where I kind of do want to chase for top 100k. I think I'm 10 points off. This week, I will be playing my triple captain. If I go Semenyo to Doku, what's the worst that can happen? Doku's going to be under, let's say, 5% owned around my rank. He performs, brilliant. He doesn't, it's not going to be good, but I'm willing to take that risk. Then the next question becomes Crystal Palace players, because we saw a vast rotation for them this week. And that's obviously going to be something that we potentially could see in the double. But at the same time, one thing that we do know is Lacroix is pretty much going to potentially play both games in the double. Like, he is their version of, let's say, a Virgil van Dijk. He's the one that never gets rotated. He's probably going to play both games. We're looking at the fixtures now. Everton at home, Manchester City away. Is it the best set of fixtures? No. But could, let's say, Crystal Palace keep a clean sheet against Everton at home? Maybe. But even then, I think the answer to that question is no. I just don't think Crystal Palace are concentrating on the league enough. Then the question becomes, are these 2 fixtures where Lacroix can get DEFCON? The answer to that question is yes. So we're potentially saying his floor for this double game could still be 8 points. If he gets 2 appearance points for both games, that's 4. He gets DEFCON in both games, that's another 4 points. 8 points could potentially be his floor, and then obviously working his way up or down depending on if they keep a clean sheet, how many goals they can concede. I still think there's that risk, or let's say that ability there to potentially get 8 points is still worth chasing. Then the question becomes the other Crystal Palace players. Dean Henderson, I don't mind, but if you're really using a transfer on a keeper, it depends on the position you're in. Munoz is obviously someone that I thought before this week was, you know what, Munoz is pretty much locked. He's going to play both games in the double. He's a 90-minute man. But we saw that weren't the case. Munoz played 45 minutes. Mitchell came on. So that kind of has ruined, let's say, my prospect of potentially getting in Munoz as well. I feel less certain. Now, let's look at, first of all, the double. Crystal Palace play on Thursday. They should qualify for the Conference League final. Against Everton, could we see rotation? I think the answer to that question is yes. Do I expect rotation against Manchester City? The answer to that question is no. I expect Crystal Palace pretty much to go full strength against Man City, full strength against Brentford, and then I'm guessing the Conference League finals after the Arsenal game. Against Arsenal, I expect rotation. But for the Manchester City game, I expect them to go full strength. So then you're basically saying 90 minutes of Munoz against Manchester City, and let's say potentially 45 to 60 against Everton. Is that worth the risk? I don't think it is. I don't think he has that flow that Lacroix has, because Munoz is not really going to, Well, he's got DEFCON a couple times this season, but he's not someone that you'll bank on for DEFCON. So I think I'm going to avoid Munoz. I think for the double, Tavernier will obviously leave my team. And I'm probably going to go with one Crystal Palace in the crowd. I'm not too confident in the other Crystal Palace assets to go with other players, for example, right now. I think the crowd will be my team. Semenyo could potentially be Doku just because I'm chasing. I think that the upside I see, he's in good form as well. And then obviously, Cole Palmer leaving my team for Bukayo Saka. But even saying that, guys, and I got 2.5 million in the bank. Regarding Bukayo Saka, how many minutes are we realistically expecting this week against West Ham? Because Arsenal obviously going to play Tuesday against Atletico Madrid. Bukayo Saka is probably going to start that game. He got 45 minutes against Fulham. He potentially could play 90 minutes. He could potentially play, I don't expect him to play 120 if they obviously go into extra time. But between, let's say, 75 minutes to 90 minutes is probably what I expect of Bukayo Saka. How many minutes does he get against West Ham? I think he still starts against West Ham just because, listen, it's the end of the season now. There's no point resting Saka. Use him until like the wheels fall off kind of thing. You are so close to the title. I expect him to play against West Ham. 45 to 60 against West Ham. Is that worth it? Potentially. Is that something I'm going to do? Probably. I think Bukayo Saka I will be bringing in, which means I'm going to avoid Gyökeres. Then the question becomes, am I happy with only João Pedro for the last 3 games? I don't mind it. I think Liverpool away, we've seen they're not the best defensively. Could João Pedro get points? 100%. Saying that, Chelsea haven't scored before. Obviously, João Pedro got in like 9.5 hours, which is crazy. Then he has Tottenham and Sunderland. Sunderland are on the beach. Tottenham, everything to pay for. But then again, Chelsea, Tottenham's always an entertaining game. And then Liverpool, Chelsea. Liverpool probably should win, but with the injuries they have, and let's be honest, you can't trust Liverpool this season. I'm still happy enough with João Pedro, let's say. I think that's how my potential team is going to be looking like for Gameweek 36, guys. Like I said, do I think Doku's the best City midfielder to own? No, but I'm in a position where I want to chase. I see the upside with Doku. I'm going to go there. Saka, like I said, I see the upside, especially Cole Palmer's dropping form. I say dropping form. His form has been bad for a while. And then obviously Lecrao, I trust his floor enough, hopefully in this double. And that's how potentially my team will be looking at for Gameweek 36. There's still a couple of days to discuss. It's only Monday. But like I said, guys, that's how I'm looking at for now. And make sure you guys like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Remember, guys, my triple captain will be active this week on Erling Haaland. And we'll be back soon.